Hey everyone, welcome to Startup Equity Matters, a podcast about how to create value from startup equity. Here we unpack equity stories from capital raising, team equity and ownership culture, exits, and stuff like that. I'm excited about today's guest. He's a super smart guy. He doesn't normally do podcasts, so I'm very grateful that he's joined us today. From what I can see so far, he really thinks outside the box. He's outspoken about his strategies for building an awesome startup and an awesome company. And he has some great views on how to do your team equity, specifically around using RSUs, restricted stock units, instead of options. Recently, when Cake released a major upgrade to our RSU feature, I instantly thought of Bill. I'm not sure if you're using Cake or not, Bill.
No, remember, we only got introduced after we were already using Pulley, which we're actually quite happy with. We'd definitely be a Cake user, but I think we just missed each other. We just missed each other there.
I totally agree. I remember you were in the US.
You can delete the mention of the competitor too. You can just beat that bit out.
It's all good. We're here to talk about equity, man. So that's all good. And look, timing's important. And you're running your company, like your corporate, out of Delaware, right? US company.
Yeah, we're a C Corp out of Delaware. We incorporated through Stripe Atlas. Super smooth and easy. So I'd recommend that to anyone. We bank with Mercury, and we're incorporated through Stripe Atlas in Delaware.
Yeah. So at the time, I think we weren't in the US much. We're obviously, at Cake, going great in the US now. But once your equity's sorted, I appreciate you don't really want to muck around with it too much. The topic today is, can restricted stock units make startup team equity better? And Bill's already snuck into the chat. So welcome, Bill Kerr, co-founder and CEO of Athyna.
Yeah, thanks, Jace. Thanks for having me. Excited to chat. As you kind of mentioned earlier, feel like we've been allies for a while, digital allies. LinkedIn buddies, we do StartMate stuff together and so forth. We haven't really spent a whole lot of time hanging out, so I'm pumped to be here and hopefully can share some interesting stuff, if nothing else, as to how we've set up all of our equity for our global team.
Great, mate. Yeah, I totally agree. I think both Athyna and Cake are massive on startup culture, team culture, and also brand. And I've been enjoying seeing those aspects of Athyna grow. It's been inspiring for me as well. I remember when you first came out with that psychedelic, vibe. I was like, wow, that's cool. And look, Athyna, I'd love to chat a little bit about that just to kick us off. So it's a global talent platform helping to hire, manage, and retain world-class global talent. So yeah, tell us a bit more about the vision and mission for Athyna, mate.
Yeah, so Athyna started, this is my second startup. So my first startup was called Adventure Fit, and we took people all around the world on adventure holidays for the wellness community. So we would go to, let's say, Vietnam, for example, and we would explore caves and rock climb and dive, and then we would train, do some level of mindfulness, so yoga or meditation, and we would, see the cultural sites, drink a few beers, eat burgers, have as much fun as humanly possible. It was it was my lifestyle, wrapped into a 7-day experience and sold on to people that wanted to join us. So it was super awesome, incredible product, incredible brand, but we never really made any money. So I had to be scrappy. This is like 2013, 14, 15, 16. We probably about 4 years there through that period. And I had to be smart and scrappy about how we built out the team. So we never really scaled the team. We had a small team in Latin America and a small team in Southeast Asia. Basically, because, like I said, when I say we were making no money, we were losing money and we didn't raise any money. So I was like, putting all my money into it. We were selling trips to fund, putting trips on sale to fund current trips. It was a nightmare. And because we had no money, we kind of built a global team, and then I became, this global teams guy for a couple of small business communities. And then originally had a co-founder, Drew. He actually left after the first year, but Drew and I the plan was that I was going to be this guy that could help his small business community. He was like a business consultant. His small business community build global teams, set up systems for remote work, asynchronous communication, so forth, and then how to find and manage, global talent. So what happened was I did some research, and the original idea was that we just find a referral partner. I came back to Drew and said, hey, look, I don't really think anybody's doing this particularly well. I definitely think this is the way the world is heading. And I think there's probably a good business model in here for us, and it's pretty good, positive impact on the world. So I think we should do it together. And then, that's what we set out to do. So it's been pretty good. I mean, we're about 4.5 years in. There's a lot of things that I'm super proud of. But none more than what you mentioned a little bit earlier is the brand and also the culture that we have at Athyna. We're profitable and growing fast and building some great tech and so forth. We've got many reasons to be really proud of what we've achieved so far and what we've built and what we will build. Well, you can't be proud of what you will build, but you're probably with me here. So
yeah.
But the thing is, we built a beautiful brand and a brand that kind of stands for something and a meaningful culture. Our engagement scores at Athyna are 90, which 80% is considered excellent when you're talking about employee engagement. So our average on our quarterly engagement scores for 3 years, we've got like 70 people now. Our engagement scores on average are 90. So if 80 is excellent and 100 is perfect, we're somewhere in between excellence and perfection. So it's going well. It's interesting, but yeah, the thing that I am most proud of is brand and culture, and I'll tell you why. I think it's an unlock. I think if you have a really strong brand, you end up having all-star talent kicking your door down to come and work with you, and if you have all-star talent kicking your door down to come work with you, you have an incredible culture. That all-star talent's going to come in and do their best work. And, you might have a clunky product or a broken go-to-market or a this or a that. If you've got all-star talent motivated to do their best work, things are probably going to fall into place somewhat. So, it's good. Athyna's great.
No, mate, I couldn't agree more. We invest so much in that at Cake, and we're having very similar, successes. So look, really stoked to see what you're doing, and love the way you're building Athyna. It's wicked, mate. Well done. Mate, so look, this is obviously an equity related pod, and love to dig into some of the equity aspects of your journey. So let's kick off with capital raising. You said with the first company, it's always good to get a couple of those early companies under your belt, learn a few things and what you want to do, what you don't want to do, that kind of thing. And then, so I guess this time around with Athyna, I know you raised a bit of capital. I don't know the whole story. Love to hear a bit about the capital raising journey. I think you've done at least one super interesting raise that I'm keen to understand more about.
Yeah, it was funny. So what happened was we decided, so we've been bootstrapped up until, the end of the third year, I guess. Or maybe we're 2.5 years in, and we decided that we wanted to build. So we've always been a talent platform. So effectively, we matchmake incredible talent with companies looking for talent. So basically, think of us as like a talent platform, talent network, talent marketplace kind of thing. So what we wanted to do though was we built EOR into our platform. So we wanted to be the first 360-degree global team building function. So basically, tackling the two big problems of global hiring, compliance, and finding talent. That's what, in my opinion, are like the two big problems to be solved. So EOR was really hot at the time. Deal were raising multiple rounds, like very, every 3 months, Oyster, remote. It was pretty hot industry.
Deal pretty much broke every record, didn't they? Like that for a couple of years. Their ARR chart was like vertical to like the hell it got to, but
they all kind of were too. Like Deal are definitely the leader now. I think Deal will be the next Salesforce, but Oyster were crushing it. Remote, like globalization partners for Papaya, like they were just all going bananas. So,
we partner with all them as well, because we've got super complementary missions with Cake and Deal and Remote.
100%. Yeah, we're really close with Oyster and Deal. I know the founder of Oyster, or one of the founders, super well, and Deal a little bit. I don't know the founders, but Deal and Oyster are great. So anyway, at the time we built EOR, and then we planned to go out and raise with that as the future. So global talent platform and also compliance side handled as well. So we built everything, launched it right when we opened our round. So we opened the round in 2022. It was in March or April. I actually don't know like the date or even the month, one of those 2 months, I think. But what I do know is the day the round was open. So when I say the round is open, I mean basically the data room was finished. Like people could actually, we'd had some exploratory calls for sure, like a bunch of them. But when we were actually open for business, the data room was finished and we were going for it. So basically what I do know is we opened the round the day that Netflix made their first mass round of layoffs. And that was the one that everyone was like, layoffs, massive round of layoffs. And it was like day zero. When people look back in 10 years to the 2022 market correction, that'll be day zero. So we opened our round. We started, so we had inbound from GGV, TCV, Sequoia, a bunch of the biggest funds in the world. And I remember having a meeting with a guy named Graham from. So we were talking to investors in Australia and also in the US. Australia were pretty reasonable with their multiples and what we should be shopping the round at, and the US was just bonkers, as everybody knows. So I remember having a conversation with a guy from TCV. TCV are pretty big, like $5 billion fund or something like that. And he said to me, oh yeah, no, you want to raise it probably around 75 to 100x. He goes, if you raise it anything less than 75, people won't take you seriously, and 60s, people will be like, 60s a joke, you'd be ripping yourself off. I said, okay, this is right before we're going to open the round. So we opened the round trying to raise 5 mil at 45 mil. We had 3 calls we had multiple calls with Sequoia, General Atlantic, which are too big for us, but we had 3 calls with them. K1, we had 3 calls. K1 told us, guy named Blaze, his name was. K1 said, oh, you're raising 10 mil. I said, yeah. He goes, this is at the end of the call. I said, yeah. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, mate, we just raised an $11 billion fund. He said, if we back you, we'll give you more than 10 mil. I said, okay. So things were going super, you know what I mean? It was like the market was starting to deteriorate slowly, and then it started to deteriorate rapidly. So what happened with the round was we got to the point where in around May, maybe like 6 weeks into the round, because I went to the US and we tried to compress everything, time pressure, get lots of meetings happening, so on and so forth. And we got to the very final stage with the mid-sized fund out of Austin. That was 5. We'd reverted our raise back down a little bit. Well, not a little bit. We kind of halved it. We said 5 mil at 25. That was awesome. That would have been amazing. And we got to the final stages with this fund out of Austin, and then they had to go to their portfolio and like check with 2 potential conflicts in their portfolio, and one of them, which it wasn't a conflict at all, one of them nixed the deal, said, nah, we're not happy with that. You can't. So, okay, no worries. So we go back on raising, and this is when it starts to get bad. June, July is like, okay, shit's really hitting the fan here. Worst downturn since 2000. Whatever, blah blah blah.
I was raising at the same time.
Yeah, you were. That's right. Yeah. I've got a lot more grey hair in my beard now, and I'm sure you do too.
I remember similarly, I was up in Singapore and we were doing some R&D up there and like some go-to-market research, and I had a call with our VC. I can't remember exactly when it was. It would have been like March that year, and it was like pretty sure everybody's just shut their checkbook. We might have to rethink this whole bad boy. Yeah, that was a shock.
So you ended up raising through Launch and Jason Calacanis' fund. Did they lead it or something in the end? You ended up having a result in the end though, didn't you?
That was before that. So yeah, the round before that we got J Cal in, and Rampersand, and then just after the pandemic hit, Rampersand led one. We still got a little round done. Like good, it was actually a good sized round, but it was like probably half or a third of what we were hoping for. So it was still good.
Yeah.
We were still happy,
Yeah.
and not many people getting funded, so we're pretty stoked. But yeah, it was like a big shock to where we thought we were going.
It's pretty scary too, I feel like especially for us. I made the decision because we hadn't raised money, and we were growing, like historically we grew like 25% month on month for like 2.5 years, and money was cheap and easy, and so we ended up taking on a little bit of debt to just supercharge growth, just to build this product and then go and raise and so forth. So when the markets tightened, so did the options we had with our debt provider, and it was actually pretty sketchy. It was real scary for us for a little while there. So anyway, to wrap the round and what happened, we raised and raised and raised. We got to the point in August where we had a final investor committee pitch with a $2 billion fund out of Europe. They were really keen. I chatted with them like 3 months ago, 9 or 12 months after this all went down, and they said that they were 100% going to invest, and they were really, because what happened was we decided in August to kill EOR, the new product that we launched. We had EOR contractor management and a few other products and features. We made the decision to kill EOR, laser focus back to our core, and grow our way out of this predicament. So at the same time,
I love that. We've done that too multiple times. Let's get back to the core. Let's go.
Yeah, well, look, if you're not making bets that don't pay off, you're not really a startup, and you're not really trying hard enough. You're not ambitious enough. So it felt like a loss at the time, but fuck, it was not a loss. It was everyone was so on board. Like, okay, we do one thing and we do it well, and we just started taking off like a rocket ship. But we still had this debt. So what we did was we raised, we opened the round, and it was all VC led. Like I said, we met with if you lay out the 15 biggest funds in the world, we met with 14. We didn't meet with Andreessen. That's the only fund we didn't meet with. We met with them multiple times. So close with a couple, here and there and what have you. But then we made the decision to kill the new product. So we couldn't pitch any VCs on a future that didn't exist anymore, because half of the future we were pitching had just been deleted. So what we did at that point in time was we opened a bridge round. So we still had, we opened it like a month before this happened, before we did close everything off. But so we went total scramble. We had one fund wrote us a little check. So it turned from a price round to a safe note. We got a little fund in on the safe, a bunch of angel money. We opened a community round, which a bunch of our talents and clients and allies and followers threw money into, and we raised about 500K. So that was a bridge to get us to profitability, a bridge to get us to just through this period to take care of the debt that we needed to take care of and so forth. And then we kind of but man, we got to, and I know we want to talk about equity in a sec, but we actually got to a point on a Friday night in probably like August of last year. And I've only kind of told the team, or some of the team, about this now. We got to the point on a Friday night where I had two scenarios. I had a scenario of like 30% layoffs, 30% of the team, and a scenario of more. Like brutal. Brutal. And I said to our leaders,
I think in the last 2 years, every founder's had some of those plans around.
Yeah,
been tough.
100%. And oh man, it was crippling stress and anxiety, and it was really bad.
I had to go see a bloody psychologist one time when this happened, and I had when the pandemic hit, I nearly had a fucking breakdown, and I literally had. I
was seeing a psychologist before this all happened.
I think I was crazy before I started the startup, but I officially saw a psychologist after starting it, because I was like, how am I going to get through this? I got all these people, and it's hectic.
Crazy, man. That pressure that you have when you employ people and you put food on their table, and the market is shit, so people aren't going to go and be able to find a job.
Well, they can't get another job. That's the other thing. You're like, no way.
Nah, so it was bad. I met with our leaders on a Friday night, told them all on Monday morning, we have to decide, on the team. So over the weekend, think about it. I crunched the numbers 50 different which ways over the weekend. And then on Sunday evening, I decided, okay, I think we've got a month left of having a crack here. And that's when we decided on the Monday morning, I rolled into work and I said, hey, everyone, we're killing all the new products. It's all dead. Stop it all immediately. We're zeroing in on our core, and we're going to back our team in, and we're going to grow our way out of it. And it was one of two things. It was a weak move, a decision that should have been made that I wasn't strong enough to make, or a masterstroke. It looks like a masterstroke. It could have easily, so it worked out, but it was like, it could have been, man, it was just crazy.
Love it. Walking the tightrope.
Yeah.
Let's call it a masterstroke because it worked. But no, it's amazing insights there. So that's some absolute gold on capital raising, but also, yeah, just runway and managing priorities and pivoting and working your way through revenue and costs and getting the profitability and all that stuff, man. It's like that's the big part of the founder journey, man. So grateful to hear the story and also that you managed to succeed through that. So that's sick. So sick. And all companies that succeed go through this stuff, I think, in the first few years. Obviously, it's a bit easier in those years where the capital tap is turned on. But the best companies are probably built in these years where it's off, because you've got to build a real company that bloody works. And then you can hopefully maintain that discipline and scale the thing up. So
100%.
Nice one. All right. Well, let's get on to the look. That's great start. Love that gold already. Let's get into the meaty bit. We're here to talk about restricted stock units, RSUs. My experience with RSUs is very limited, I must say. We started in Australia. A lot of my early startup career was in Australia, and I don't think anyone does RSUs in the startup space in Australia. I think over time it could become more popular. We've been on a real education journey in that space. I know larger companies, so mid caps and listed companies, RSUs are quite common in Australia. And, so the bigger we've gotten and the bigger our customers have gotten, the more of a necessity we've had, to understand it and have product features for it. Getting over into the US and getting traction in the US has again given us more motivation to understand and solve problems for RSUs for our customers. And I guess it was around that moment, wasn't it, where I launched. I'd seen you advocating for it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. I'd love to know more about that. And then we launched the product, and I thought, bam, here's the moment where I can learn, your insights and help educate people on what an RSU is and how or why it could be better for people to use instead of options, which options is the more traditional way of doing startup equity. Definitely. So maybe we start, mate, with like what sort of pushed you towards RSUs in the first place?
Well, for starters, when thinking about an equity plan, my belief is that you have to sit down and really craft your own philosophy around it. What level of people get what, how many people in the organization get equity. And for lots of companies, it's different. So I know lots of friends that work at organizations where they were head of this, manager of that, and then when they qualified or were promoted to director level, they can access equity. That's an example. It's kind of common, what have you. That isn't what we wanted to do. So we wanted to be as open-handed as humanly possible from day one. The thing is, my motivation with Athyna is to make. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to pump my own tires here, but what fires me up the most is changing the financial future of our team. Because if we have any sort of result, I'm going to be able to buy 10 nice houses. You know what I mean? So I'm fine. And I'm a solo founder now as well. So the plan for us, when we sat down and we said, okay, what is the strategy? How are we going to go about this? I said, what's a regular equity plan look like? Equity plan normally, maybe 10 to 15%. I said, okay, cool. I'm a solo founder, so I own all the equity. I don't have 2 or 3 founders, so I'm already equity rich, so to speak. I said, let's be really open-ended. Let's carve off 20 from the start. So we carved off 20% for the stock. So that was point number one. Okay, cool. Who do we want to be able to access this equity? I said, well, we said, kind of, we came up with it together, some of the early team. We said that early stage employees will get larger chunks and it'll cascade down. So that was kind of how we were going to go about it. And then the idea from the start was that interns to executives, everybody gets equity. If somebody comes in and they work hard at Athyna and they do, enough time with us for their stock to be able to vest, they deserve to be rewarded. So interns to executive, everybody gets equity. So that was really important to me and to us. And then when it came to RSUs, I didn't really know the difference between all the different forms of stock. I was, obsessed with tech and startups and so on and so forth, but I didn't know shit about it. It's just something that I hadn't experienced myself personally. And it's also quite dense, it can be quite challenging to get your head around. So we actually worked with DLA Piper. Do you know DLA Piper?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we got, I was talking to Phoebe from Blackbird, Phoebe Harrop, she's a friend of mine. I was talking to Phoebe and I said, how do we go about this? How do we get it all set up? Who would you recommend? And they pointed me straight to DLA Piper. Not cheap.
Who did you work with? Was that the Australian team or the US team? I guess it would have been the
US team.
Yeah.
The US team, because we're a US domiciled. So,
yep.
So we work with DLA Piper. They have the reputation, as far as I'm aware, of like the best in class for global equity and just equity in general, or as good as any. So we work with DLA Piper, and I had to kind of understand the options that we had. So options, or RSUs, or phantom equity, or all these other methods that you can kind of knock up.
Yep.
And
so many
for
types.
us,
there's so many types. Pretty much all of them you can do on Cake now, because we're just like, if we do options, we just can't help everyone. So now we're like, let's just give everybody everything they need, and then they can solve it in their own way. And as you said, they've got their own strategy, they've got their own culture, they've got their own way, and we just have to give people all the tools, to sort of make their own employee equity. I think it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. So for us, all of our team is in countries like Argentina, Brazil, India, Philippines. I mean, we've got a couple in Australia now. We've got team that are in Europe and so forth. But if you have, what I don't like about options, for example, is they reward people that have already got money in a way, and they are very prohibitive in a lot of cases for people that are making their way in it. So if you're 21 years old and you've just graduated with a marketing degree and you join Safety Culture or whoever, somebody that's got a nice equity plan, you work your ass off there and you do 3 years, you've got a bunch of equity that's vested, but you've got no money in the bank, then too bad, stiff. So I don't like that. So we want it to be really. Just lost your audio there.
Yeah, my Zoom muted me. I must be talking too much. So let's dig into that a little bit, because this stuff's quite technical, and on this podcast we're not going to be going into every technicality because we'll bore everybody senseless. But I think it's probably worthwhile just doing a little bit of the technical stuff. I'm happy to sort of lead that bit. I've got a couple of notes here. So in the show notes, I'm gonna put some blog links. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, down in the links you'll see some explanations of options versus RSUs. And I think we've got 3 or 4 different blogs on the Cake website. If you go on there to the resource section and type in RSU, so you can sort of understand the technical elements. But I guess at a high level, both options and RSUs are used to incentivize employees. So on the ownership side, according to our blog, so stock options provide your team, doesn't have to be employees, can be employees and contractors in almost all countries that I've seen. So an option gives the right to purchase shares in the future for an exercise price. So what Bill's just talking about there is it's that exercise price that creates the problem, because if you just say you get granted options and you earn them over a 3-year period and you kind of think you own them, but you actually have to make an exercise payment to get your shares. And there can sometimes also be a time limit on you doing that. So you could earn all this, just say you earn 20 grand, 50 grand's worth of options, or your startup does really well and you end up with like quite a bit of value there. You could have, or you do have a payment to make. Sometimes it's extremely low, like very close to zero, and that's totally fine and easy. But sometimes it's not, and it can be, in the fives, tens of thousands of dollars. These exercise payments, so it is very prohibitive. So that's kind of what Bill was talking about there. Whereas with an RSU, it's a promise to grant employees a specific number of shares after vesting. So there's no exercise payment. Once vesting occurs, the shares are owned outright by the team member.
It's a gift. I explain it when I talk to our team about it. I say very simply, the two common ways to look at equity is options. You have the option to buy the stock, and RSUs, where you're given the stock after the stock vests. That's kind of how I explain it, because can be pretty dense. So it's like you're given the stock.
Love it. And so I think we've kind of covered exercise and vesting there. So vesting is kind of earning it, and then exercising it is only for options, and that's actually getting your shares. Whereas with RSUs, as you say, it's kind of gifting the shares. Okay, awesome. And then the last point, just on the technical side, just so people have got like the important parts of the technical element is the tax side of things. How does the tax work from your perspective on RSUs?
So this is where it's super interesting. So I talk a lot online. Where you would have seen me commenting and talking about RSUs, I talk back and forth with some of the other competitors. There's a guy, Pete Walker, I think his name is. He's cool, and I go back and forth with him. I'm sure you know him you see him on LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah, great content.
Yeah. So super good guy and great content. So basically, the common idea around RSUs is that they're a huge tax burden if you gift RSUs to your employees. Now
that was going to be my question, because that, like, looking at it on paper, that's kind of what it looks like, because the difference.
Yeah, that's right.
So like when the vesting occurs, the taxable event occurs according to the technical part of it. So that's like, hey, I worked for 3 years, or worked for a year, and I got 50 grand's worth of equity, and now I have
so it has the same problem as the RSUs, because you have to make a payment. Basically, it's kind of similar to the RSUs. So to options. So the thing is, though, with equity plans, you can build them kind of how you want in a way too, right? So you can have your own plan that's drafted to your needs effectively. So we worked with DLA Piper, and I said, okay, what are our options here? Because what is really important to us is that we give the stock to our team. I don't want the team to have to buy the stock. And originally, the first conversation was exactly what you said. Oh, well, your team are going to have a massive taxable event. I said, well, that defeats the purpose of them not having to buy the stock. Because if you think about it, all of our team, Argentina, Brazil, Peru, India, Thailand, so on and so forth. We got people in first world countries, but mainly third world countries, really. Incredible team. But if we're to grant them any sort of options or RSUs with a taxable event, again, it becomes financially crippling and prohibitive for them to own any part of the company. So I said to DLA Piper, or someone from DLA Piper suggested this, that we have a second trigger inside of our equity plan. So basically what happens is, with a standard RSU agreement, you'll have a single trigger, and the single trigger is vesting term. So we have a double trigger. So we have vesting term and change of ownership or liquidity event. So IPO or a sale. So what that means is that nobody has any taxable event in any situation until we all win and the company sells or goes public. What it does. Yeah, it's epic. It's epic. And this is the thing that I understand.
This is one of the best. Like, this is why podcasts are so amazing. That information you just gave me is gold.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
That could change the game. Like, I'm always talking about the same thing with options. It's like, you can't have a tax bill here and here and here. Yeah. You've got to have the tax bill when you get the money for the exit. Like
Yeah, or
that's
it's a
like no
negative
one.
impact on your life.
You got
Yeah.
to earn it, and then you got to put your own hard-earned money into an ultra
Yeah.
high risk company. First of all,
Yeah,
you might
that's
not even
right.
have the money. Second of all, you might have no other assets other than your options, right? And then you got to put
And
all
it's high
your
risk.
whatever little
It's
bit of
high risk.
assets you've saved into a high-risk company in the
Yeah.
chance that maybe you're going to win in the future. Like that, we can't have plans written like that.
Ah,
So
it's
that's
tough.
genius what you
So
did with the second trigger, man. I love that.
yeah, so here's the negative impact. I wouldn't say it's negative impact, but here's the things to consider on the double trigger clause is that, say for example, we decide to become really, really profitable and pay dividends to all stockholders at Athyna, all shareholders at Athyna, stockholders, shareholders, whatever, then technically our RSU holders don't hold any RSUs because they haven't had the second trigger event. Even if they've worked their ass off, they've been with us for 4 years, we can actually still just make the payment. And if we're to do dividends, we can do that. We can just say, hey, this is whatever, it's a gift. There's obviously ways that we can do it. We can pay out a dividend, but technically, if we're to pay dividends, they're not actually owners of the company. They don't own the stock. But who cares? Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get an exit event. We're not trying to pay dividends with Athyna. We're trying to eventually sell or go public in some time in the next 3 to 5 years is most likely. I might be working at Athyna in 20 years. I love what we do. I love our team. I love everything about it. I've got all the energy in the world. But I do also want to get everybody a good result. So there's a high likelihood at some point in 3 to 5 years that we have investors now too. Also, that's the other thing. So there's a likelihood of one of these events. So yeah, that's something to think about. Is it's technically they don't have the stock until there is that event, but that it circumvents that pain in the ass of the taxable event. So again, if it wasn't DLA Pipe, like we went to the best law firm basically in the world to go through this complex plan, and we paid through the nose for it. But if you can't trust DLA Piper, you can't trust anyone. So I feel really comfortable and confident with it. And yeah, that's how we did it. It was pretty interesting.
Well, it's the coolest, the most unique ESOP, or no, not ESOP, team equity I've seen. You're doing it in a ton of different countries. I've never heard of it done before. You're really aligning the interests of the different stakeholders, and you're making sure that the program isn't punitive to these great team members that are coming on this journey with you. And I really take my hat off to you and DLA for doing that. I'll have to make sure I give them a bit of kudos as well. I know a few people there. So yeah, that's absolutely awesome. Good stuff. That's a huge win for everyone that listens to this. Is going to be all over my socials. I'm going to be talking about this like forever now. So thanks so much, man. That's pretty sick. This is what I'm really trying to get to at the heart of everything at Cake is like how do we create real value? Like how do we not get people stuck up in all this stupid technical errors? How do we not penalize team members with stupid short exercise periods and exercise payments and dumb stuff, tax bills that they just don't want to deal with?
100%.
Good on you, man.
It's really quite a meaningful thing.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not it. I know that in Australia, in the United States, and parts of Europe and the ecosystem that I am surrounded by today, so Latin American startup ecosystem, is as strong as Asia Pacific. But what is not as common, it's not as common for employees to think about stock, to think about equity plans and so on and so forth. So we try and do a really good job of educating and communicating the value and so forth. And even to today, like we don't do a phenomenal job. It's hard. We always need to be on the front foot there. But the way that I look at it is, I mean, a lot of things have to go right for us to have that exit event that I said a moment ago, that I mentioned. But people try and buy us all the time. We'd have to also something, I don't know. I'm confident, but obviously a million things could happen in the meantime. But it's the only way to change the trajectory of, meaningfully change the trajectory of 100, 200, 500 people's lives is through equity. I mean, salary is cool. we don't pay location agnostic salaries to our team. We pay much better than local rates. We have great benefits, and everybody has equity. So our team are super stoked and happy. Like I said, we've got 90% engagement, but we could choose to have location agnostic salaries where our salaries are, near to the same as the US and Australia and so forth. But that's not what I'm betting on. I'm betting on our ability to create value for our team through equity and through, rolling the dice on some event in the future.
Mate, you're better at my job than I am. This is all the stuff we talk about at Cake, mate. Honestly, like we're so empowered. Kim and I are so empowered by building wealth for our team. We totally
100%.
love that ethos of like, if they win, we know we're going to win. We have a big ESOP. We get in a bit of trouble with our investors about it, but we're like, hey, this is our culture. This is what we care about. Creating wealth in countries where it otherwise wouldn't exist, like getting first world equity into third world countries. And I don't like to label people, so excuse me there, but that's just intergenerational wealth creation in a way that's really impossible, or very, very difficult any other way. So I'm such a huge advocate for this stuff. It's like totally the mission of Cake to be doing this. So absolutely pumped to meet you and hear your vision and mission and how aligned we are, man. So this should be the first of many good chats between us. I'm so glad we finally got to talk in person, and we're just firing up, but unfortunately I want to respect your time as well. We're kind of running out of time. I feel like we could jam on this for a little while longer, but can I let's just come back to something you said really early, and something that we're also very aligned on, passionate about at Cake is, health, mental health, having fun, having a great life, being on a great journey. And then, the business is a part of that. Like it's sort of intertwined, and you can't really build an amazing company and without an incredible team. And the team need to be energized, and they need to be committed, and they need to be able to stay with you for the long term and not get burnt out and all those things. And so, I'd just love to hear a little bit about how we've actually covered some of the aspects of that. Maybe we can dig into more the health and wellness aspects of that culture and how you're growing your team.
Yeah, that's interesting. So our engagement has always been really high, 90% on average. Our wellness score. So we do engagement surveys every 3 months, and we do wellness every 6 months. That goes back to back with manager effectiveness survey. So our wellness scores haven't been as high. I think remote work is really good for wellness overall, but we try and make sure that we minimize meetings and screen time. We try and give people as much in-person time as we can. We have co-working passes now. We try and promote just in general a healthy work-life balance and culture. We spent a really good period just a few weeks ago for Mental Health Week. We had a day off where everybody the deal was they could have the day off. They just had to do something that they love on that particular day, and they had to put it in a memories channel we have in Slack. So that was cool. Really awesome. Yeah. So that was really awesome. Look, I think we do pretty well on the health and wellness. It's important to us, but I guess we don't have a finger on the pulse like I would like with our team, because we are fully remote. I've thought about getting our team Whoop band. So I wear a Whoop. So that's obviously tracks my sleep, tracks my exercise, tracks my recovery. We've spoken to the team at Whoop, like the corporate, the B2B team at Whoop. We were thinking about getting our team Whoop bands and so on and so forth. We haven't gone ahead and done that. But I think the team, the most important thing, I think, in terms of mental health and wellness at work is having a good culture. Because everybody knows the feeling that if you wake up on a Monday morning and you go, fucking man, this is going to suck, that radiates through the rest of your week and everything that you do and your mental health. So we try and create an amazing environment where everybody feels respected, everybody feels heard. The most impactful thing I ever heard about culture was from our first ever head of culture. We hired a head of culture in like our 10th hire. it was a crazy person to hire for your 10th hire, but we have prioritized it since the start. Her name was Carmela. She said, I was really worried about the fact that we were remote. How are we going to build culture? How we have to get people together. We have to have a budget for flying people to different regions to meet and so forth. And she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, Doc, culture isn't built at the water cooler. She said, culture is how you treat people. And I've just never forgotten that. So I think we treat people well. And I think that, that really helps people have a good mental health and a good work-life balance.
Well, Doc, I'm going to call you Doc now. We're mates now. Look, I'm very grateful for you joining us. I know you don't do pods, and I think I knew this would be good. I knew you're a great dude. I'm much more convinced now. We've shared a bit of gold for everyone, and I'm really looking forward to, continuing on the founder journey with you, supporting your mission as much as I can. Such a huge fan of the way you're running Athyna, and really appreciate you taking the time today to share some absolute gold, potentially the number one nugget I've got out of my pod so far. So yeah, good stuff, man. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for having us, Jace. It was overdue, and everything that you said there, I echo back towards you and Kim and the team. I love cake, and it's been awesome to follow your journey and build side by side in the same kind of community. I feel like we're we only really met properly today, but I feel like we've been allies for a while and buddies. So
100%, 100%. Look, thanks everyone. Catch you next time.
Cheers.